What's up, miners? Hey guys, I want to actually welcome you to our video on minor formations for offense. We started this talk last week in practice where we introduced our three basic formations, base left, base right, and bunch middle. Today we're just going to do a quick review of those, but then we're going to show you how we can get into 14 additional formations using just 3 words. So we want to go ahead and get started with this. Hopefully you can get in, take a look, and learn these before coming in, and you can know exactly where to go no matter where you're playing. This is just to make everybody's life easier on practice day so we don't have to spend as much time going over it. All right, let's get going on this. The first formation is what we call base. I mentioned it's sort of like home base. It's the place that we're most comfortable. This will be the one we're probably in most often. And so we call it base just because this is the one that we like the best oftentimes. And so base is set up just like this. And there's a couple quick rules I want to remind you of. First of all, in base or any formation that we have, the center and the quarterback will always line up in the same spot. Let me repeat that. The quarterback and the center will always line up in the same spot. That means the center will be on the ball and the quarterback will be 5 yards deep. From there, we have to look at our left and our right calls. And so just like we read the page in a book, left means we're going to count from left to right, just like we're reading. And so when you look at it, everybody else is numbered. So 1, 2, and 3 go in order. And so 1 is even with the center. His foot is basically even with the back of the ball, or he is on the line of scrimmage. 2 will actually split the difference. 2 will be halfway between the 1 in the center, probably about 7 to maybe 10 yards, depending on how wide the field is, from the center and from the 1. But the bottom line is we're going to be about midway. We're also going to be aligned midway between the center and the quarterback. So we're going half and half. And so when you get aligned twos, you will get up in that wide receiver stance, just as the 1 will, about halfway between the 1 and the center and halfway between the center and the quarterback. Finally, our 3 is going to align about 3 to 4 feet to the right of the quarterback, approximately a yard, as well as about 2 to 3 feet behind the quarterback. So we're about a yard wide and a little less than a yard deep. We want to just be behind the quarterback so that when we cross behind, it's easy for the quarterback to turn and hand us the ball. But we'll get to that later. Now, when you flip this formation to base right, I want you to know that we're now going to read it just like it says. From now, we're going to read it right to left. So you can see we're now counting backwards. 1, 2, and 3. And then the center and the quarterback will stay right where they are. They do not change. So hopefully this helps you with these base ideas. Is that if it says base left, we count from left to right. If it says base right, we count from right to left. And we're always going to count in order. 1, 2, and 3. Now, once we move to something called bunch middle will always default to left. In other words, we're going to count it just like it's left to right. And so in bunch middle, all we're doing is we're bunching up our 1 and our 2 up around the center. The center and the quarterback will still be the same. The center will be on the ball. The quarterback will be 5 yards deep. The 3 will be about a yard wide and a little less than a yard behind the quarterback. But then we're going to take our 1 and our 2, we're going to bring them in, we're going to bunch them up together. And so they're going to be 1 yard wide from the center and 1 yard deep from the center, approximately the same spots with their feet, and it looks a little bit like this. And so we call this bunch middle. As I said, we worked on these last week. I hope these are pretty simple. We want to make sure that we drill down on these, because as we move forward, we're going to find that we can change or vary off of these 3 formations using only 3 words today, and that will be able to allow us to do about anything we want to do. Let's look at it. So when we get to changes in formation, in other words, ways that we want to vary up what we do, we use what we call change words. And actually, I've got written down here 12 formations. Ironically, I added 2 more today, so we're actually up to 4 formations. I take that back. How about 14 formations with only 3 words? You'll see how easy it is in just a second. What I want you to understand is that we're going to use our base left, our base right, and our bunch, and then add 3 words to it and to change and put people about anywhere we want to. Let's take a look. So the first word we're going to look at is the word stack. Stack means to be behind somebody. So we want to take a look at how we can change our formation with just the word stack, and here it is. Our first formation is based off of base left. You look at it, this is base left, but all we've done is we've told the 3 to stack behind the quarterback. So we simply call this base left 3 stack. You can see it really doesn't change anybody else because the only person that we said to stack was the 3. So the first number will always tell us who's getting the word, and then the stack will tell us what that person is actually doing. So you sort of want to look at it as 2 parts, base left, and then the second part is 3 stack, which is just telling, hey, 3, stack behind the quarterback, and we're going to have them approximately 2 to 3 yards behind the quarterback. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the next one. I bet you can guess what's coming. So the second formation that we're actually going to look at is still out of base, but this time after we look at base left by itself, notice what we do differently. At this point, we say, hey, 2 stack. And so 1, 3, center, quarterback, you didn't get a change word, so you stay the same. But the 2 is told to stack, so now 2 comes and sets up approximately 2 to 3 yards behind the quarterback, with everybody else staying the same. Now, we'll talk about when and how and why we use this later, but this gives us a different look altogether. Base left, that's the first part. 2, stack it behind the quarterback. Very easy. So easily enough then is when we flip all this. You can imagine now we go to base right, everybody goes to base right, and we tell 3 stack. There it is. It's real simple. 3 is now going to stack behind the quarterback, and it looks just like that. If we were to flip it again and say, hey, base right, everybody getting base right, and then we yelled out 2 stack, it's as simple as that. The 2 will now stack behind the quarterback. And so all of this essentially stays the same except for the person that we tell to change using the change word. Pretty simple. So the next word we actually want to learn is a word called wide. Wide is a word, as you can imagine, that tells somebody to widen out or to get to the outside. So let's take a look at how that works. So we would start out with our normal call. Base left, everybody gets in base left, just like normal. Then the call would come out 3 wide right, 3 wide right. And you can see then the 3 is going to widen out just like as if they were the 1 on the other side, but they're going to widen to the right, and it gives us a totally new formation. At this point, 3 becomes a wide receiver, and they will run the call, or the play call, which we'll talk about later on. So if you were to do the same here, base right, and everybody got in base right, you can imagine then, simply to get the 3 to the outside on the left, we would then say 3 wide left, 3 wide left. And so here again, this wide word tells the 3, hey, we don't want you in your normal spot. We want you to widen to the left. And so one of the ways we also like to do this is out of our bunch formation. We like to use this one a lot. So if we were to yell out bunch middle, everybody gets in their bunch middle formation. 3 wide left, 3 wide left. Now the 3 gets wide to the left. It's really that easy. So by the time you get to bunch middle, we can also say 3 wide right, 3 wide right, giving us 2 different looks out of the same formation. So finally, we can actually get a little interesting with this. If the call came out base right, everybody gets in base right. The next call is 2 stack, 2 stack. Everybody stays in their same spot except for the 2 who now stacks behind the quarterback. And then the call comes out 3 wide left, 3 wide left. You can look and see now we get a totally look all together again. This is actually great when we want to isolate receivers on defensive backs to try to get an advantage. And so this is another way that we can use formation calls and words to get into something different. So we'd hear base right, 2 stack, 3 wide left, 3 wide left. And everybody would know exactly where to go based on 2 stack, 3 wide left, and the simple call of base right. So when you get to the end of this, then you understand that it's very simple to change to the other side. Base left, 2 stack, 3 wide right does the same thing. It just switches the 1 and the 3. Easy stuff. Well, the last thing I want to look at then is something called 3 bunch wide. We want to also look at how do we get our bunch formations out wide to the left and the right and not just in the middle. Well, you can sort of imagine what's coming. You see, it's pretty simple. We're going to say, hey, at this point, 3, bunch up wide to the left, because the center and the quarterback by rule will always have to stay in the same spot. Look how easy that is. So the call will come out, 3 bunch wide left, 3 bunch wide left, and 3 knows because the center can't move, he goes out and does the center's job. He's the bunch man. He sets the bunch out wide to the left. The 1 and 2, because they hear left, they know left or right, 1 and 2, and 3 knows he's setting the bunch. So to keep that simple, then we can do the same thing with 3 bunch, 3 bunch. 3 goes to with the bunch now, knows that he's replacing the center who can't move. Wide right, and so now 3 sets the bunch to the right, and now we count it from right to left. 1 and 2 from right to left. And so it's really that simple. We just use a couple words to get ourselves going in the right direction, and we've totally changed up our formations. And so the final formation to look at is something we're calling 3-12 train. Now this is just as simple, actually, as our bunch formation. It's used actually when people are playing us man-to-man and we want to try to get wide receivers open. And so 3-12 train is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to go in that order, 3, then 1, then 2. And train means, hey, we're going to form a train. In other words, we're going to have basically a locomotive with 2 cars behind it, so that we're sort of, in a sense, stacked up on each other, just like we would be behind the quarterback, except we're using train so that there's no confusion. And so when you get to 3-12 train, you can see what's coming. It's really simple. 3-12 train to the left is 3, then 1, then 2, all quote-unquote stacked up together, though we're calling it train so we don't confuse it. And so we get 3 there, almost in a bunch formation, but just in a different way to confuse the defense. We can also do the same thing to the right side. 3-12 train right does the same thing. The 3 is first, the 1 is second, and the 2 is last. And so we're going to get into these formations just based out of the lingo that we're using. We're essentially going to be using stack. We're going to be using wide. We're going to be using trained. And we use those with our base and our bunch formations, those 3 primary formations. And so with just a few words, you can see that everything changes real easily and real quickly. Well,